Hey everybody, thanks for checking out another one of my tackle making videos. You know, a couple of months ago I had a buddy reach out to me in regards to a previous video I did, and he was asking about the bait holder that I tied on my jig. You know, there's 2 or 3 different ones that I like to tie, so I'm going to break this up into 3 different segments. That way if you guys find something that you like, you don't have to go back through a 30-minute long video just to find whatever you're looking for. So I'm going to break this up into 3 smaller videos. And I want to give you guys a rundown on my homemade bait keeper that I tie on almost all of my jigs. I pour a lot of my own jigs with do-it molds, but you can also do this on any stock jig that you have if you got a favorite. But the main thing with this is just efficiency. You know, whenever you're having to fool with a trailer that's sliding off your jig hook all the time, or if you're going through a bunch of trailers, it gets expensive quick. But the worst thing is losing that time on the water. You know, if your jig's not in the water, you're not going to catch a fish. So efficiency is everything. So this is a little deal I do to maximize my efficiency and keep my bait in the water the whole time. And it's super, super simple to do. All you need is just some regular old stainless steel wire. This is 30 thousandths. I've got some just copper wire, steel wire. I believe this is 28 gauge. I've got some 32 gauge here as well. I get it at Hobby Lobby. It's about $1 for a big spool of it, and that'll last you forever. And then what I like to coat everything with is just some Protect powder paint. The reason I like the powder paint over an epoxy or a super glue is the way the plastic reacts to an epoxy or super glue if you leave it on your jig for a week or so until you can go fishing again. So at that point, that does you no good at all. So I've had really, really good luck with powder painting over what I'm getting ready to tie here. And I've never actually had one fail. So it's a really, really good system for me. Like I said, I'm going to break this up into 3 different parts. There's 3 different ones I tie on a couple different baits I think you'll be surprised about here. So it really, really helps with my efficiency. So I'm going to go through a couple of the different just bait holders that come on a do-it jig that you might pour. And then I'll get into the specifics of how I go about doing this. So the first one, this is actually my favorite. This comes on one of my favorite do-it jigs of all time, but it's just the double holder. It's kind of a conical shape, and that lead, it doesn't really have a defined barb on it. It's just kind of got that cone on there, and that friction with that lead and powder paint on your plastic bait is awesome. It holds it on there really, really well. That's an excellent bait holder just right out of the mold. The next one is just the good old ring and barb. This comes on like a lot of your round ball finesse jigs. This is a good one as well. It's not quite as good as the conical shaped double holder there, but this one works really, really well, especially on smaller trailers. As you can see, I got a couple finesse jigs here with really small hooks, and it's not too bulky. Won't tear up your trailer too bad, but it works really, really well on some of your finesse jigs, things like that. On your swim jig here, the casting jig, it's got the ring and barb as well. It works really, really well, like I said, as well. But whenever we start talking about old traditional style jigs, do-it makes like the Style S Bass jig and the Weedless Sparky jig. They're awesome designs. I love the shape of the head. I've modified a couple of them. I actually have 2 or 3 of each of these just so they can, you know, take different eyes. This one's got just the standard eye, and then I've got this one drilled out right here. This is a Style S with the turned eye for, you know, flipping applications. But like I said, these head designs are awesome. They come through the certain cover that I'm fishing, whether it be rock or wood, whatever. Awesome design. But they have the old school just collar. So all that was for back in the day was just to hold the skirt on. I'm sure they were putting just a regular old pork chunk on there, so there was nothing really, no need to really have any kind of holder on there whatsoever. But I'm going to show you guys how to fix that. I actually tied one up here. This is the Sparky jig that does not have any kind of bait holder on there as well. You can push this, you know, trailer up on there a little bit and it'll hold it a little, but for the most part, this is kind of a jig for, you know, threading on a pork chunk, kind of old school style, and that works really, really well for that. But I'm going to show you guys how to fix it here. So I'll show you the Style S. It's got the just regular barb ball collar on there. And this is what this is going to look like, especially for your larger jigs. Like I said, I got a couple different variations I'm going to show you, but I'll start with this one. And that's what it's going to look like once it's done. It's just a piece of wire, and in a nutshell, you wrap the wire over it and then powder paint it. So I've got a couple of them I'm going to do here. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a jig you poured. You can do this on any other jig, especially with the powder paint technique. You don't have to always put it in the oven to burn your weed guard off or whatever, you can just kind of do it with the heat gun and it'll work perfectly fine. So I'm going to zoom in here and show you guys how I break this down. All right, so I got everything laid out here. Like I said, I've got my tying wire. I've actually got 32 gauge laid out. I've got some 30 thousandths just stainless wire here. Got some CUDA pliers, and I'm going to show you guys how I go about forming this bait holder that I'm going to attach to this jig right here to get more efficiency out of my jig. So I'm just going to take my CUDA pliers. I'm going to grab the end of this wire, just about the width of the needle nose here, and bend it over a little past the 90 degree, as you can see here. Just have a little bitty hook on there. And then what I'm going to do from there is just kind of just bend my wire up about 1/4 inch, just so that wire has something to hang on to. And then I'm going to take my CUDA side cutters here and just cut it off where there's just a little bitty 90 degree angle right there. And then from here, I'm going to take my jig and just kind of hold it on there with my fingers, pretty self-explanatory. And then just take my wire and just wrap all the way around this bait holder. So what I like to do is get the first couple of wraps on there, probably 3, 4, 5 times, just where it's tight. And then kind of take my fingers and push it all the way down. And then go ahead and wrap the rest of that bait holder on there. And whenever I get about 3/4 of the way, I'm going to stop, square everything up, push it down again, make it all even, and then go ahead and just finish wrapping that thing super, super tight where it's not going to go anywhere. You can go back over it a couple times, especially if you're using the 32 gauge. It's pretty small wire, works pretty well. So it's all secure on there. And then from here, like I said, you can do this on an existing jig, but what you're going to want to do is just take your heat gun. I'm going to scoot out just a little bit here. Take your heat gun just like this, get it all fired up, and just powder paint it. You don't really need to dip the whole entire head again. Just kind of get the hook down in there where the holder's at, and just get a good coating over everything just to lock it all into place. So it's going to go something like this. Kind of crucial to get all the powder paint off the tip of the hook. Sometimes you get a little on there. Everything down here is not going to hurt anything, but as you can see, you've got that powder paint completely covering all the wire and everything. So from there, all you got to do is just stick it in the oven if you'd like to. It'll probably work just like that, and it's going to lock everything into place. It's super solid. As you can see, everything is completely covered up, and it's even kind of locked it into the ball collar on there. So that's what I do for my larger jigs, and it works really, really well for me. Like I said, I've never actually had one come undone, and that powder paint doesn't react like an epoxy or super glue will whenever it comes in contact with a soft plastic that you happen to leave on there for a little while. So like I said, for the larger trailers, this works really, really well for me, and it really increases your efficiency. So I'm going to zoom out here, and I'll show you guys the next version on a finesse jig.